It gives me immense pleasure as IMC Young Leaders Forum, in association with HR College of Commerce and Economics, presents Talk on Budget Impact. I would like to request President IMC, Mr. Khurakiwala, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all the students who are present here this afternoon. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome each one of you to this interesting talk on budget impact, organized by Indian Merchants Chamber of Commerce and Industry and our Young Leaders Forum, jointly with the HR College of Commerce and Economics. As you know, the Union Budget 22-23, unveiled by our Finance Minister, has laid a blueprint for country's economic journey over the next 25 years. I think it's a budget which has a long-term perspective of how the country's development will go forward. The forward-looking budget provides a direction actually for the country's progress in the future and is laced with certain welfare orientation too. The budget highlights the progressive vision for the rapid infrastructure development through the Gati Shakti program that has the potential to create millions of jobs, create world-class facilities for easy mobility of people and goods, and reduces overall transportation costs. This is basically a program, Gati Shakti, which coordinates with 16 ministries of our government to provide mobility linkages of waterways, roads, highways, airports, railways, all getting in some form or the other long-term interconnected to a master plan. And that the whole idea of doing this is to reduce the transaction costs, reduce the transportation mobility costs, which in India, as you probably may know, is the world's highest. We are at about 14%, whereas the international data tells us it is around 8 or 9%. So we are uncompetitive to the extent of 4 or 5%. So that's the whole Gati Shakti project is all around this. The budget also talks about MSMEs, which are likely to benefit from the extension of ECLGS by 1 year till March 2023. Financial inclusion has received a big boost in this budget, where the government has said that 150,000 post offices will be merged into the core banking system, delivering immense benefits to the rural population. We are glad that finally the economists are not giving that much importance to the fiscal deficit, which they have said they will bring it down from 6.9% to 6.4%. As long as the economy grows and inflation is under control, I think with productive expenditure, we can live, I think, with the deficit. This budget has also made specific suggestions for spurring demand and investment in the economy, which in turn would lead to greater job creation. We need to move to a virtuous cycle of growth where sustained demand leads to higher consumption and consequent higher capacity utilization leads to more capital investment, which in turn leads to job creation and more demand. The government, as you know, in this budget has put almost 2.5 lakh crore more on capital expenditure. So this is a very big sum. Last year it was, I think, 5.5 lakhs. This year they have raised it to 7.5 lakh crores, which will ultimately, as I said, bring more employment in the long run. They have not, in this budget, they have not tinkered with too much of direct taxes as one would have liked to, but maybe they may do so in the next budget as we lead up to the next elections, which is in 2024. Anyway, in order to discuss it in length, we have lined up excellent speakers who would share their insights, and I'm sure you all will benefit from these participants. I'd like to welcome Mr. C.A. Apurva Chaturvedi, Joint Managing Partner, MM Chaturvedi and Company. Said Deepak Gupta, Senior Fund Manager, Reliance Nippon Life. Mithali Gopani, Advocate Associate at D.D. Shah and Associates. And Shardul Shah, Partner, M.A. Shah and Company. And Dr. Naveen Mukesh Punjabi, Vice Principal of HR College of Commerce and Economics. Before I conclude, let me just give you a brief about the Indian Merchants Chamber. The chamber is a premier chamber of commerce in the country with a rich legacy spanning well over 100 years of excellent service to trade, commerce, and industry. With its membership base of over 5,000 members and over 150 trade associations affiliated to it, the chamber represents and advocates interests of over 400,000 business and industry establishments across the country from diverse sectors of the industry. Through its various expert committees, IMC provides various policy inputs to the government. And also IMC has a very strong youth wing, which I encourage all of you students to join the youth wing. And I'm sure you will learn a lot about commerce and industry and all the programs that we have. So I urge all of you to take advantage of Indian Merchants Chamber's youth wing, which is very active, and this program is also arranged by them. So I welcome you all once again to this exclusive discussion, and I would like to thank Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, Principal of HR College and Commerce and Economics, for providing this platform to interact with students. So have a great afternoon of learning and knowledge. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Korakiwala. On behalf of Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, she had a family emergency and she could not be part of this call. She was really looking forward to meeting all of us virtually today, but she had a family emergency. So on behalf of the principal, students and staff at HR College, we welcome one and all. Over to Vidhi to take it forward.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce the speakers for today. We have the experts who are the very best. Extremely privileged to have with us CA Apurva Chaturvedi, Joint Managing Partner, Chaturvedi and Company. Apurva qualified as a Chartered Accountant in the year 2006 and now has been in active practice since the past 16 years. His areas of specialization is in strategic and finance, corporate advisory, insolvency and bankruptcy code, statutory audits and internal audits, and income tax laws. He belongs to the only family in the world that has 5 back-to-back generations of practicing chartered accountants. Also, he is an alumnus of HR College and graduated from here in the year 2003. Also extremely delighted to have with us Ms. Mithali Gopani. Mithali is an advocate by profession and holds a law degree from Government Law College and a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance from Jai Hind College. She's practicing in the field of litigation, specializing in direct tax matters before Commissioner of Appeals, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, and Income Tax Settlement Commission. She is also visiting faculty for law, audit, and professional ethics at Jai Hind College and a part of the Board of Studies at Jai Hind College. Also happy to have with us Deepak Gupta, Senior Fund Manager, Reliance Nippon Life. Deepak is an All India rank holder chartered accountant, having worked with Indian capital markets for the past 16 years. He has worked with large global organizations such as Morgan Stanley, also worked with boutique international funds such as Progress Capital Limited. He has been working as Senior Fund Manager with Reliance Nippon Life Insurance for the past 3 years, where he manages equity ULIP funds for the organization. Also extremely privileged to have with us CA Shardul Shah, Partner MA Shah & Co. Shardul is a Chartered Accountant and LLB from University of Mumbai and has completed his PhD on the topic of royalties. He has been the Regional Council Member of WIRC of ICAI for 3 consecutive terms. He's the Chairman of the Finance and Tender Committee of the Mumbai Cricket Association and the Secretary of the Indo-American Society. He is also the co-chairman of the Young Leaders Forum for IMC this year. So thank you once again, and I'll give it to Dr. Naveen to take it ahead.
Thank you, Vidhi. And firstly, thank you, Mr. Korakiwala, President IMC, for this collaboration with HR College to get this unique budget event for all these students. And thank you, Sheetal Kalroji, Director General. Thank you, Vidhi Doshi, Chairman for the Young Leaders Forum, and Shardul Bhai, and of course all my dear lovely panelists whom you have just heard their profiles. A very distinguished panel of very learned, all learned speakers who are going to give you the insights into budget. So I thought, what is my role in this panel? So I thought I'll give you a perspective of an academician first to begin with, as to what a student should do when a budget comes up, or how should you approach the union budget, because that's how at least my journey of understanding the budget began from when one of my teacher told me that what should I look for in a budget. So I thought I'll give that as a starter, and then the main course will be served by all the expert panelists. So earlier, the union budget was just another day. It was not as important as it has become now, which is the last couple of decades, that the union budget became like a historic event, a landmark event. It has become like the happy birthday of the economy. Why do I call it happy birthday? Because people expect that the economy will be reborn, or there are new hopes, new enthusiasm, and new expectations. The word expectation is a very dangerous word. The stock market gentleman, Mr. Deepak Gupta, will tell you later on that what is the expectation of the markets from the budget. So please underline, highlight, and note this word expectation again. So every budget, corporate India expects some things, common man expects something. So all these expectations, and this is where the economy is actually reborn. We have had analysts who go into the depths of the budget. Yesterday, the Economic Times carried an article on budget and Sensex return. What is the announcement of the budget and what is the return on Sensex? They also, the analysts go on to also tell you, they don't stop there. They tell you what is the exact number of words in the finance minister's speech. So last year budget was 10,500 words and she took 1 hour, 40 minutes to read it. I'm sure this year they will tell you that it was read in flat 1 hour and how the budget was given. There used to be a halwa ceremony. Now, what is a halwa ceremony? Halwa ceremony used to be when the budget papers used to go. Very important papers, my friends. Trust me, that they go in sealed vans, and uske pehle the finance minister shows a kadai and a halwa and they serve it to all the people there. And that is a mark that the budget is ready and it has gone for publication. This year's budget, though, was paperless. Hence, there was no halwa ceremony. There was only sweet distribution ceremony by our honorable finance minister. So the budget speech is listened carefully with renewed enthusiasm every year. The union budget of 2022-2023 is presented by our finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, for the 4th time. The budget is very close to HR college. Can someone tell me why? It is very close to HR college. Okay, I'll give you the answer. The 2019 budget was presented by the alumnus of HR college, the then interim finance minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. So my friends, one of you sitting there today, we never know. We never know. One of you sitting there today could be reading the same very budget speech in the near future. And this is the confidence that I have in HR College of Commerce and Economics, or this is the blessing that HR College of Commerce and Economics has got. And we are delighted that IMC and HR College, which is an industry academia partnership that comes up to bring these sessions, allows us to get into the depths of the budget and bring out all the positives, negatives, and as a neutral person, we can discuss it in an open air. So when I was a student in my first year, I asked my economics teacher, I'm a commerce student, and trust me, I run away from maths. So I asked my economics teacher a very naive question. Sir, I don't understand budget. I don't understand what is so big gaga about this budget, and all the newspapers carried so many things. So he gave me only one guru mantra, which I will share it with you. He told me, learn the philosophy and the rationale of the budget. And then he told me, please read the finance bill. So the budget is nothing but the finance bill, which is there. And it becomes an act later on, etc., etc. He also told me to attend such insightful sessions of experts who give you their expertise in their various fields, because there are chartered accountants, there are lawyers, and there are other people. Yeah. So my friend, read the finance bill of 2022. Whenever you have doubt or a clarification, go to the explanatory memorandum, which is there as part of the explanatory memorandum annexed to the bill. Listen to the budget speech at peace. Sometimes you get to know many things from the emotion of the finance minister when she's passionate about delivering something. So please look at the speech, audio, video, both, and please look at it somewhere. So this is how I understood the budget from my teacher. And I really thank my teacher that time, who made me read the finance bill, made me read the budget speech, and then made me understand the explanatory memorandums, etc., etc. Before that, he also told me that, beta, the Economic Survey of India comes, if possible, try to read the numbers so that it will give you an insight of how the budget is prepared. So this is what the rationale of the budget is. Now, what are our panelists going to answer? We're going to answer various questions which we are going to ask. I'm delighted to have amongst us a very, very distinguished and learned panel. So you met C. Apurva ji, who is the joint managing partner of Chaturvedi, and of course an alumnus of HR College. Our second panelist, Mithali, who's an advocate and also been amongst the young students, so she knows the students' perspective as well. The third panelist, Deepak Gupta ji, who's our stock market enthusiast, who's with Reliance Nippo Life, and he's managing a huge ton of money for Reliance in their ULIP plans. And the fourth panelist is our very own Shardul Bhai, who is a chartered accountant, and I of course refer to his book on trust, which he had presented me. So I have it saved, and whenever I have doubt, I go back to those points in that public charitable trust, that book that you have shared. So without much ado, I just thought these would be my opening remarks. We will be going through our four panelists in the order that I've introduced them. And the first question I'll pose to Apurva. So Apurva, you're an expert in BFSI and of course taxation. And what do you feel? The 1-year extension on registration of companies as startups and the tax SOPs given, do you think it will boost the startup ecosystem, and what is there for students to understand from this startup ball game altogether in the budget?
Well, thank you, Naveen, for that question, and thanks for having me on the panel. It's an absolute privilege, honor, as I'm an alumnus. Also, because my father started his career as a teacher and lecturer at HR College in the year 1977. So therefore, today is very special to me. Now, as regards your question, and I can see there are about 175 and growing number of participants, and most of them are youth under 25 years of age. All I can tell them is there has never been a better time in India to be a budding entrepreneur. Although in this budget speech there was just one mention of startup, they have increased the time limit to get those tax incentives, but there have been so many incentives in the previous budget for startups. Today there are about 85 unicorns, Indian unicorns. 4 years back and 5 years back, nobody knew what the word unicorn meant. Even now, for those people who don't know what a unicorn is, it's basically a company that has $1 billion valuation. So it's a 7,500 crore plus valuation company. It's called a unicorn. 4 years back, nobody knew what a unicorn was. The budget speech barely mentioned the word startup or unicorns, and today we have 80 unicorns. The best part about this startup ecosystem is that all these 80 unicorns, if you look at the founders of those unicorns, nobody belongs to an industrialist or a business family. They're all students whose parents were having very simple government jobs, or at a very medium level in their professions and their businesses. And here, within one generation, these guys have had the guts to have these dreams and increase their businesses and become thousands of crores, get valuation and get investors from all over the world. So all those students who are here, you must follow your dreams and set up your companies. Now, even from the finance minister point of view, she has increased the time limit to get that 3-year tax-free incentive. So what that essentially means, that a startup, which is the company that is registered as a startup with the government of India, would get 3 out of 10 years tax-free profits. That means that whatever the profit that the startup earns can be plowed back again into the company, and the startup doesn't have to pay any tax. Now, this is a very, very big takeaway for startups. Otherwise, 25-30% of the profits go into paying income taxes, corporate taxes. So I think it is a big impetus for the startup community as such.
Thank you, Apurva. I think this would encourage the students to look at starting their own businesses, and your curriculum also has a topic on how to list or how to start various types of forms of organizations. So you may decide to take one form of organization, and Apurva has told you that you should register as a startup as well to get the tax SOPs. So I think you can connect the dots and take things forward from there. Apurva, one more question to you before I move on to Mithali. See, the budget speech also mentioned about the divestment of Air India. So what do you think are the asset monetization plans of the government, and how have they been addressed in this budget?
So well, uh, the finance minister started her speech by referring to Air India divestment and Neelanchal Ispat divestment. Now, since our audience is all under 2025, and the word PSU is a very archaic, non-glamorous, boring kind of a word. So just to give a little perspective, when India got independence around 1947 in the first in 1950s, there were only 5 PSUs, and the investment in those PSUs was just 29 crore. In 1950, 5 PSUs and 29 crore investment. In 2020, there are 350 PSUs with an investment of 16 lakh crore. Okay, so all of us youngsters have to hand it over to these old archaic PSUs, because for the first 40-50 years of our of India, of the independent India, they were the backbone of our economy. They were the foundation of our economy. That's where we are right now, because of these PSUs. Now the time has come that everybody should retire. No company can survive forever. So therefore, these companies also have to change hands. The way these companies function, they cannot keep up with the new flashy companies, a few flashy management and all of that. So in this budget, asset monetization was referred very briefly. The reason is because it has been addressed to in such detail in the previous couple of budgets. The finance minister has given us a list of the companies that she would want to monetize by divestment. And these things take time. Air India divestment is a big feather in the cap. Neelanchal is a big feather in the cap. And now we have BPCL, HPCL, Concord, all of these companies getting divestment in the next year or two. So I think government is on track. A lot of money is getting raised, and it's a very good thing, because I don't think government has any business to be in business. They should run the country and have the businessmen run the business. And I think they're on right track. And a lot of investor wealth is getting created. Once private managers come and start handling the businesses, the shareholders would get a lot of value out of it, rather than having government babus run businesses. There's a big difference in the way the businesses are run.
Yeah, thank you, Apurva. I think this is a classic debate in class about the capitalist and the socialist economy, where whether business should be left to the private individuals for profit to run, or should government hand interfere. I'm sure you will speak to your economics teacher on this, how the invisible hand plays its hand, and how John Maynard Keynes has his theory. You may want to debate out Apurva's points there. It would be a great learning, in my opinion.
Sure.
Apurva, before I move on to Mithali, I think one more question since we have time. In the budget speech, the finance minister also spoke about easing the IBC, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and towards a step moving towards ease of doing business in the country. So what is your opinion on that? Because one side we are talking about startups that you can start easily. On the second type, to close a business is a big hassle still in India. So it's that's what I've heard from most of the businessmen कि आप चालू तो बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो, including a trust. उसको बंद करने जाइए तब आपको पता चल जाएगा कंपनी हो या ट्रस्ट बंद नहीं हो पाएगी.
सही बात है आपकी. To wind up a company is a big challenge. It's more difficult to wind up a company than to set up a company. That's a no-brainer there. See, so IBC is a very good law. It's a very unique law. It has been there in the US and in the western parts of the world. Now in IBC, so I'll tell you what IBC is, because lots of students may or may not know. I'll quickly refer to what IBC is. So like IBC is a law which came in the year 2016-17. It's called Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. It's basically meant to resolve problems of those companies which have taken a lot of debt from the banks and financial institutions and are somehow not able to repay those loans. They cannot even repay the interest on it. Those accounts have become non-performing assets, NPAs as the banks call it. And therefore, a resolution has to be worked out on how these loans get repaid. So before the IBC came in, the bankers would take the promoters and the companies into DRT or some court or something, and those matters never got resolved. That went on for decades. With this IBC law, there's a mechanism where all these problems are to be resolved within 270 days. Now, there are two things that happen in IBC. Either the company gets liquidated. That means assets of the company are sold. भंगार के भाव जो बोलते हैं, फैक्ट्री किसी को दे दिया, शेड किसी को दे दिया, मशीनरी किसी को दे दिया, whatever comes is given to the bankers and the operational creditors. Or the option number 2 is another promoter will come and he'll take over the shareholding and the ownership of the company by paying whatever is negotiated between the committee of creditors, between the bankers and the new promoter. So there are 2 options in this. Now, in the last 3 years, about 3 lakh crore rupee has been recovered as a result of having IBC 2016. 3 lakh crore has come into the system. This money would not have come had there been no law. It would have dragged on for years and years. So IBC is a very strong law. And also another thing which has happened is that now there's such a fear of IBC amongst the promoters that they initially, what used to happen, that they would drag on the cases for years and years, and then you push hone wala to hai nahi, chalate raho. But now they know that the shareholding is going to change. There's going to be a new promoter who will come in and take over the company. So therefore, there is a big incentive for these defaulting promoters of the companies to pay the money upfront, negotiate with the banks, pay whatever they can, and keep the company. So I was going to see this economic survey of India was released a few months back. I was going to the numbers. 19,000 companies having a debt of 6 lakh crore, 19,000 companies having a debt of 6 lakh crore were submitted into the IBC for resolution. But these promoters of these 19,000 companies, they came back to the banks. They said, we will resolve this. We'll pay you the money, this 6 lakh crore. And therefore, they were taken out of the ambit of the IBC. So they didn't go into resolution, but because the fear of the IBC was so much that these guys said, boss, हमको पैसा दे देते हैं, आप हमको यहाँ से छोड़ो, हमको जाने दो, So now they are out of the ambit. So the fear of IBC is helping banks recover so much money. And of course, the IBC itself has recovered 3 lakh crore in the last 2.5, 3 years. That's a fantastic law,
Thank you, Apurva. We request you to hang on. We'll come back to you.
Sure.
So over to Mithali. Mithali, since you've also been part of the education sector, what do you think the budget has for the education sector in it? So there were 2 announcements. One was about digital university, and the finance minister has already acknowledged that there has been a loss of learning. So firstly, your personal opinion, is there been a loss of learning, and what is your opinion about the budget and its impact on the education sector and the digital university?
Okay, so very good afternoon to everyone. I think giving India new wings is what can be seen from the union budget. There's a quote by Kofi Annan which says that knowledge is power, information is liberating, education is the premise of progress in every society and in every family. As a teacher, I know I've been teaching students, I'm teaching your level students, so I do know the difficulties faced by the students, especially because we had to shift to this online platform. So the government, keeping in view this current scenario, had introduced digital university, which makes world-class education accessible, and they've made it in such a way that it will be accessible in regional languages. So no matter where you are situated at, whether it could be in the semi-urban, urban or rural areas, they've tried to make sure that education reaches to everyone. Of course, that being said, yes, there has been a loss of learning. I personally believe so, because you lose out on a lot of in-person learning. There's a lot of extracurriculars you do when you come to college. You interact with, say, your fellow classmates, you interact with your seniors, you interact with teachers. So that is going to be lost with this entire digital university, which is coming into the picture. I know the government is trying to make sure that, there is more education accessibility to everyone, but we would be losing out. Of course, with the current scenario, there's not much we can do on it. That's why there are a lot of skill development courses also, which have been announced by the government. In fact, government has announced that they'll be collaborating with foreign universities to set up in the GIFT City, the Gujarat International Finance Tech City, to provide courses on finance management, finance, technology. So any of the students who would want to get access to such education in India, I feel this would be a very good opportunity for them. So government is, with the budget, is trying to make sure that education is reached out to all. Yes, with the loss of learning, they're trying to compensate it as much as possible and getting it in touch with the digital India, which the government is aiming for at least the next 25 years.
Thank you, Mithali. I think the there has been a general consensus, and Vidhi wants the event to happen next year offline. And I'm confident that next year we will not be on our screens, we'll be on our chairs, and all these panelists will be on the dais there. And after the session, you can meet, greet, and of course, exchange your pleasantries and notes both with them. So I'm confident that the situation would improve and we all will be meeting in the next budget, hopefully physically. Mithali, one more question. See, health and education are the two important aspects which has attracted CSR, healthcare being the first one and education being the second. So what do you feel is the government's push for digital ecosystem for healthcare for people? So what is in it in the budget for the healthcare sector here?
So if we see the healthcare as compared to the pre-COVID times, there's been a 73% increase in the expenditure as compared to the post-healthcare. So when we talk, the government, when they came out with this budget, they introduced two very important reforms. They introduced it on the digital platform. The first was the National Digital Health Ecosystem and the National Tele-Mental Health Program. The National Health Digital Ecosystem is the introduction of an open digital platform where you will have access to various health facilities, medical facilities. Each citizen will have a unique health ID, which I feel is a very good change, a very welcome change, because that means now there would be more people who would have access to healthcare facilities. There would be more people who would be able to have all their health problems sorted, will have the one place solution for their health problems. So I feel the digital health ecosystem is a really good initiative. I feel the second initiative, which is the tele-mental health program, is a very good move, especially considering today's time, with the change which we've had with, say, the pandemic, the lockdowns which we've taken place. You know, there have been so many physical, psychological, economic changes which people have to adhere to. And it shows that the center is trying to be in sync with the current situation. Mental health, if we see, has a lot of stigma attached to it. And whether we are as students, we are as professionals, it could be in the medical field, it could be in the corporate field, we are all at some level facing some kind of mental health. So having this program, having this initiative is a very good initiative by the which has been introduced by the government in this budget. And it shows that the government is trying to move forward, it's trying to keep in time, it's trying to keep in par with the current changing times which are taking place. So overall, the increased investment in health shows that the government is trying to have a holistic approach in the health sector and is committing to building stronger health systems in our country.
Thank you, Mithali. You would be also delighted to learn that HR College has a mental health club, and we organize mental health session for all the students. And there are also private counselors, of course, free of cost, who come and help students. They have their office hours online right now on Zoom, and it has kind of helped. That's the feedback that we have got. And I'm glad that the tele-mental health program in the union budget is definitely a very positive move in that direction. So over to Deepak ji. Deepak ji, Apurva and Mithali will again come back to you. So please be there. And Deepak ji, firstly, before we begin.
Like a mental move by HR.
Sure, thank you. So before we go ahead, the first question to you as a stock market enthusiast would be, what is your general sense of the union budget in your opinion, whether the budget is whether it is focusing on near-term imperatives or it is also a long-term budget in your opinion, or is it just a budget before the election time, which is maybe the next, goodies are kept for the next year, just before the election, which will be announced for the common man. So what do you feel in the general sense of the budget?
Naveenji, thank you for having me over here. And I really appreciate talking to the young minds of our country, with so many students of HR College participating. Thank you for having me. Coming on the budget, I think the most importantly, as you articulated in your speech earlier, that expectations is all that matters. And what expectations one has from the budget, whether the expectations are met or not. So when the markets was anticipating the budget about a month back, they were anticipating that there would be a lot of populist measures that will be implemented by the government, given the fact that there are 4 to 5 state elections around the corner, with Uttar Pradesh being the big state where elections are going to take place in March. And there would be a lot of stops, or there would be a lot of freebies given in the name of in the name of rural spending. And I must commend that Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman and the think tank have done a fantastic job in giving a growth-oriented budget, which is focused not on a short term but from on a long-term basis. They are sticking to the fact. They are sticking to the plan of fiscal consolidation by FY26, where they're talking about 4.5% of fiscal deficit in FY26, and they're willing to increase spending at current levels, and they're willing to spend more and more money to revive the economy, because whatever money that the government spends in capital expenditure has a multiplier effect on the GDP, and GDP can grow by at least 1:3 times or 4 times by spending. So markets really appreciated the fact that the budget was growth oriented. The budget was in continuation of the last budget in 2021. We are in uncertain times. Pandemic has hit us over the last 2 years. We don't know how things will go on, but the government is willing to step up the expenditure, and they're really acting like the big brother and saying, "Main hoon na, I'm spending money. I'm encouraging you to. I'm doing all the capex." And then the private sector can come and participate once the government has completed capex and has built and has improved the job creation in the country and revived the economy. And the benefits of that can be enjoyed by the private sector. So market really appreciated that fact that the government continues to spend, and the stock market reaction is there for you to see for the last 2 days how the markets have behaved.
Thank you, Deepak. I think one of the students had the same question. What do you think is the long-term impact of the budget on the equity markets?
Yeah, so to add on to that, again, markets like the fact that it's in continuation of the last year's budget. There are no surprises in the budget. No tax incurring was done. The taxes were kept at the same levels as what they were. In fact, they improved on taxes. Naveenji, one of the questions you had asked Apurva-ji on startups, and they have actually reduced surcharge on all asset classes except equities. Equities, anyway, surcharge was capped at 15%, but they reduced the surcharges from 30, which was as high as 37% to 15%. So this definitely helped ESOPs of a lot of employees of startups who get ESOPs, and once they get listed, they all become millionaires. And when they sell the ESOPs, they have to pay surcharge because they all come into the tax bracket of 2 crores to 5 crores and above. The surcharge can be as high as 37%, and now that has been capped to 15%. So actually, it's a win-win for everyone, given the fact that why should asset classes which are not on equity be classified? Will have to pay higher surcharge compared to what equity pays.
Great. Thank you, Deepak ji. So I'm sure that if any of the students gets offered a ESOP, they should jump onto it and grab it as soon as possible in their pay package, if possible.
Definitely.
Great. So the second question that I had for you is the new pension scheme. There is some changes in the new pension scheme that for the central government and state government, what do you think is the change and how will it benefit the government employees?
Sure. So currently in our environment, pension schemes are applicable only to the government employees. Pension, as the word suggests, is basically creating a fund when a person retires or when he attains the age of 60 or he finishes the superannuation. He gets basically a monthly regular income which will help his household to run. That's the intent of pension. And unfortunately, in an emerging country like ours, not too many people have any retirement planning. You know, if something happens to the main person who's working, if the single earning member of the household, if something happens to him, his family is left. His family does not really know how to really sustain in the next course of years. So pension is basically subtracted from your salary, and after the age of 60, you basically get a monthly income which will help you run your household. It's mandatory for government employees. For private sector employees, it's still optional. Now, in government employees, for central government employees, the government offers a tax deduction, which is basically at 14% of whatever the employer contributes. For state government employees, it is at 10%. So again, there was disparity that a state government employee gets lesser tax deduction than a central government employee. So what this budget has done is that they have tried to keep it, they have made it equal now, that if a central government employee is getting a 14% deduction, why shouldn't a state government employee get similar deduction? And they have taken it from 10 to 14%. So again, they have got parity of taxes for both state government and central government employees, which is great. And I think it's a step in the right direction.
Great. Thank you, Deepak ji. The reason I asked you this question was as we also have some of the faculty members who are state government employees who are also attending this call. So I'm sure that stakeholder would have this question in their mind. So I thought we'll raise this and solve that. Thank you so much. Moving on to Shardul Bhai, we'll come back to you, Deepak ji, again. We have a lot of questions for you in the chat box. We'll be definitely coming to that. Let me take one before we move on to Shardul Bhai. In terms of the cryptocurrencies and the taxation, that's what some of the students are very excited. 3 to 4 questions are on cryptocurrency and taxation. My first question is crypto a legal tender? And second is, should students be looking at crypto as a investment? Because a lot of students get excited by digital assets. That's the first question, and second is the taxation.
Correct. So good afternoon to all of you. Respected President of IMC and all the office bearers of IMC, and respected the President in absentia, and respected Naveen Bhai, and all the students of HR College. A very good afternoon, and thanks once again to IMC Wildlife as well as HR College for giving this opportunity. And as rightly asked by Naveen ji, I think just because the government of India has brought in a tax, that does not necessarily mean outright that they have legalized all the cryptocurrencies. So what they're trying to say is, yes, there is a digital tax. They have actually defined what exactly this digital currency is going to mean, and it is only those digital assets which are they're talking about. And yes, this is a stepping stone towards RBI formulating a very in-depth and detailed policy as far as the digital assets are concerned. And I think the digital rupee is also going to be formulated in this regards. The government of India, I personally feel, has done a very positive step in this regards, because they have actually removed the uncertainty from both the sides, not only from the investors side, but they have also removed the uncertainty as far as people who are people who are trading in this particular currency. And yes, youngsters are definitely much more inclined towards trading in digital currency. And I feel that in times to come, more and more people are now going to actually invest in the same. It is a win-win situation for all of us. And actually, earlier, as you know, that it was not regulated, and this, I think, is going to be stepping stone towards the government of India coming out with a more detailed regulation as far as cryptocurrencies are concerned. What I personally feel now coming out with some kind of taxation in this regards will definitely give some bit of recognition as far as trading of cryptocurrencies were concerned. If you recollect, friends, that just before maybe 2 or 3 months ago, there were a lot of income tax as well as GST searches on the platforms which were trading as far as cryptocurrencies were concerned. And the GST department also was not clear as far as what has to be levied on these cryptocurrencies, whether they should be treated as a service or a property. Unfortunately, in this budget also, what I'm finding that there is not much of clarity as far as GST on this cryptocurrency is concerned. But as far as direct tax is concerned, yes, they have brought out with a rate of 30% on any transfer of cryptocurrency plus surcharge plus cess, as well as unfortunately there is no lower rate of tax as compared to other long-term capital assets. And as we all know, this flat rate of 30% will be on transfer. You will not be able to get any deduction except for the deduction of the cost of the particular cryptocurrency. Loss from any transfer of this cryptocurrency you will not be able to set off against any other form of income. A good point is there will be a 1% TDS on the payment of such transfer. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to regulate, or they want to track the every movement of cryptocurrency from person to person. and also gift will be taxable to the recipient of any cryptocurrency. So these have been some of the provisions or some of the highlights of the provisions as far as cryptocurrencies are concerned. And going forward, I think the government of India will definitely bring out a more detailed, regulation as far as cryptocurrencies are concerned in India. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Shardul Bhai. I think a lot of questions for you on the crypto side as well. So I'll just take one of the students' question in between. And if I've missed any of your questions, you may again put it up in the chat box. We're definitely going to take most of the questions. So the first question is by Yoshita Parekh. Where can you do a factual check about the actual implementation of the promises of previous year's budget of 2021? So what the student is asking is there a factual check of the budget that we can do, what was announced and whether it's implemented? I think any of the panelists can take this.
So I'll go ahead. So it's very easy to do that actually. You have to look at what were the budget estimates for FY, for example, what were the budget estimates for FY22 last year, and what is the revised estimate for this year, and one can see what kind of spending the government has done. See, the thing is that budget is basically an annual accounts of the government, where they talk about what are the receipts and what are the expenses. And it's basically the expenses where there's a lot of focus on, given the fact that these are the promises that the government has made that they will be incurring these kind of expenditure. And then one can compare what the revised estimates for those expenditure are and how are the receipts stacked up, what are the receipts which the government was expecting and what they have earned this year. So that's the way one can check what are the promises the government had made previous year and whether they've accomplished those promises or not.
Thank you, Deepak Bhai.
And just to add on to what Deepak has said, you could very easily just Google Economic Survey of India. It's published by the Ministry of Finance. It comes out every year, and it's a very detailed note about 200-300 pages, and you can see where the money has come from, where the money has been spent, which department. Everything is there in that book, So it's available on Google. It shouldn't take you 5 minutes to get it.
Sure. Thank you, Apurva ji. I think the economic survey is the base document, and we all should, as a student of finance, economics, maths, we should definitely look at the economic survey. Shardul ji, one of the student has a question, Ronak. What's the difference between digital rupee and the money in bank account? It is also in digital form. So I think he's referring to the digital rupee in the digital rupee that's going to be launched.
Correct. So the digital rupee is something, again, it is going to be in the form of, a virtual money, which will be, something which will be prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India. And as far as the money which is lying in your, bank account is different from digital rupee because it is something which is being created out of, a known source, or there could be a manner in which you can actually go to the bank and withdraw the same. In case of a digital rupee, there is no way of you to go to a bank and probably withdraw the same, and you will be able to have it in your hand and actually spend it. Digital rupee can only be used, for example, like a credit card. You'll be able to have the credit on a particular platform or a credit available in a card, which you'll be able to swipe and use it in forms of withdrawal. So it is difficult for you to see the digital rupee in terms of hard cash. So this is one of the examples of the difference.
Sure. Thank you, Shardul Bhai. Neelam Kumari has a question. Is crypto legalized in India?
As of today, it is not legalized in India. Only what the government union finance minister has prescribed is the manner of proposed manner of taxing a digital asset. But as far as Reserve Bank of India, which regulates monetary or currency, there is no such regulation as of today. And it will be very clear to say that as of today, the cryptocurrency, or you can say it's yet not legal in India.
Sure. Thank you, Shardul Bhai. I think I think the student community at large should understand one thing, that wherever there's a regulator, or as Shardul Bhai said in his previous thing, there is a need for regulation of cryptocurrencies. So wherever there's a regulator and there are norms, regulations, and processes, those asset classes are much safer. The new ones are still upcoming. So as a cautious investor, I would just say that one should look at the kind of regulation the markets has, and then only look at stepping into those kind of asset classes per se. Yeah. So
Naveen, I just wanted to add on this that
please.
cryptocurrency. I think this is the first time that the finance minister has spoken about cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
So they are warming up to the idea of cryptocurrency. They're right now taxing it similarly to winnings from lotteries or horse races or speculation income, which is at 30%. And I think in due course of time, there could be a cryptocurrency bill coming our way in the next 6 to 12 months. And I think government is recognizing the fact that that we cannot ignore cryptocurrency as an asset class, because it's right out there in front of you. And hence the first step is taxing the incomes from there and then see how things go and then move on to it.
Great. Thank you, Deepak Bhai. Another question to Shardul ji. Shardul Bhai, they said that the devil is always in the details, and the union budget has a provision for filing the updated returns after 2 years. So is there any devil in that detail, or is it like you can relax and file your returns after 2 years, revised returns, and you don't have to worry about it?
Naveen bhai, I think it's a very, very important and relevant question, because what was actually happening is, suppose if I missed out to file an income tax return for whatever reason, or if I have committed a error, it was no way I could have filed the return of a period which is now prescribed. So coming to us, it is basically to promote voluntary tax compliance, and also you can say future litigation. So if you feel that yes, there has been income, or there has been something which has been left behind by me, the government of India now prescribes that yes, there could be a possibility for you to actually go back and file this kind of a return. So they have actually inserted a new subsection, that is subsection 8A in section 139, to provide that yes, you will be able to furnish an updated return under this provision. And yes, as you rightly mentioned, there is definitely some bit of a catch in detail, in the sense that although you can file that updated return, but there is a penalty, and this penalty is very hefty, in the sense that in case you want to file an updated return which is going back to a period of 1 year, then yes, there is 25% which is prescribed, and which goes all the way to 50% for 2 years for an updated return, but plus surcharge and penalty. And obviously they have inserted various clauses which suggest that in which are the classes where this kind of updation of return is not possible. For example, you will not be able to find such kind of updated return in case any search or survey has happened in the past, or any notice is issued by any of the government authorities, or you will not be able to file this kind of updated return in case there is any notice which you have received from either of the enforcement directorate or from the Benami authorities. So definitely they have ensured that this is suitably utilized only for those who have a genuine difficulty, who have failed to file their updated return. But definitely I feel that this is a positive step in the sense that in case a person has genuinely missed out on an opportunity to file, then yes, an updated return is now possible all the way 2 years before the relevant assessment year. Thank you.
Thank you, Shardul Bhai. I'm sure that out of the 900 students every year that graduate from HR college, 800 plus aspire chartered accountancy. So I'm sure that they would all advise their clients to file their returns on time and not file the updated returns under section 8A in the near future. So I'm glad that they will give right advice to their clients per se. Great. So I have few more questions in the chat window. First, will transfer of income into government digital currency, which government is planning to release soon, will attract the same percentage of taxation? Anshuman.
So the answer is, as far as transfer of digital assets till 31st of March 2022 will be taxed as of today. It will be taxed the same way. So it will be termed as a business income in case the period of holding is less, or it will be treated as a short-term capital gain as the case may be. And in case of an asset which you are holding as a stock in trade, then definitely it will be a business income. But in case of an investment, then yes, it will be treated as a long-term capital gain, and yes, 20% tax will be applicable on the digital assets till 31st of March 2022. However, the new proposed regime would be applicable only after 1st April 2022, and then there will be a rate of 30% on any transfer of digital assets.
Thank you, Shardul Bhai. I think there are too many questions on crypto, and most of them have been answered by Shardul Bhai. Apurva ji, please.
Yeah. So I see there are, repeating what you were saying, lots of questions on cryptos. I think all the young people want to make a lot of money very fast. That's the reason, and a lot of questions on regulation of crypto. So my take on this is, it is going to be a Herculean task to regulate crypto. And the reason is, there are about 200 countries in the world, and there are about 150 currencies. Entire Eurozone follows the euro, so you can remove 40 countries over there. About 150 currencies are there. And these currencies have come up over the last so many decades, hundreds of years. And now crypto market, there are about 9,000 cryptocurrencies which has come up in the last 2-3 years. So on one side you have 150 currencies come up over 50, 60, 70 years, and other side you have 9,000 currencies which have come up in 2-3 years. Now trading this cryptocurrency is so simple, it's easier than buying and selling a share, and and you can mix, of course, the gains that can be made, all of us know about it. Now regulating this giant will require the governments, not just Indian government, but governments of all the countries, of most of the countries in the world, to come together on the level playing field. Combine this with the fact that there are countries in Latin America, Ecuador, Venezuela, and all these countries that are saying that crypto is legal. They are buying, selling, raising loans in cryptos now. So there are countries that say crypto is legal, countries which don't have no clue what this is. Somewhere it is allowed, somewhere it is not allowed. Cryptos are originating all over the world. People are buying and selling crypto. Today, if I buy a Bitcoin, I don't know who the seller is, but I'm buying it. And I'm selling it. I don't know who the buyer is, but I'm selling and I'm making a gain. Like this, millions of people are doing it every day. So to regulate this, I don't know how the government is going to do it. They don't want to lose the revenue part. So they said, treat it as speculation income, treat it at par with horse racing, race course, all of that, to maximum 30% dal do isme. But how to regulate it, I have no idea. I think it's going to be a Herculean task.
Yeah, I think what all the panelists have a general consensus here, that the taxation is done keeping in mind speculative income. So I would again underline, highlight, bold, italics, the speculation word for all my students, because please remember, with speculation, you are taking risk. And when on one side, limited regulation, on other side, high risk, you have to be a best judge. As teachers, we are not going to be there forever to hold your hands, but you need to understand this economics yourself and then decide what is best for you and take things forward. Because the number of questions on crypto is really unique. So any more questions, you may please go ahead and ask in the chat box. Otherwise, I would move to Deepak ji. The bond market and equity markets have reacted diversely to the budget announcements. Why is that, and how should students look at the bond market and the equity markets in this scenario?
So Naveenji, the bond yield collapsed from 6.6 to about 6.8 yesterday, and now today at about 6.85, 6.86. And that was largely because of the fact that there was expectation, as you had highlighted earlier, that India will get added to the Eurobond index. And for that, India should have to provide some tax leeway to FPI investors, because FPI investors will not be willing to pay the kind of taxes you are supposed to pay. And nothing was mentioned in the budget today, in the budget yesterday. Today, as I understand, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, who is the economic advisor to the Parliament, he has come out with a statement stating that we will make some clarifications on the same lines, and nothing had to be announced at the time of the budget regarding what kind of concessions they will give to FPI investors for India's inclusion in the global bond indices. Other than that, what led to the bond yield collapsing was the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, India is incurring capex. They are putting pressure on the fiscal. So fiscal deficit is running at 6.9% for FY22, 6.4% for FY23. Your market borrowings are going to increase. They're looking to borrow up roughly about 11 lakh crores from the market, and that is a large number, because the earlier number, which was expected by the market participants, was about 9.5 lakh crores. So the additional borrowing which will come in the market, hence the bond yield saw collapsing to about 6.85. which is why bond markets reacted negatively. But I think it should improve in the coming months, because I have a strong belief that India will get added to the global bond index, and that will cool off the bond yields. So at present, while anyone who's invested in the debt markets would see their portfolio hurting, but I think it should improve in the next 3 to 6 months. And as far as equity markets are concerned, equity markets rely a bank a lot on the fact that government capex is coming up, and no negative surprises have been there. And global markets have been extremely cheerful, which led to the sharp rally in Indian equity markets.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepak ji. Yes, the infrastructure spending, as Mr. Korakiwala in his opening remarks highlighted, that's what the equity markets have cheered to. But as a student of first year, second year, and third year, I would again advise you that please read the bond theorem, please read what is yield to maturity, please read all these basic concepts, so that when you listen to speakers at this forum, you're able to relate to what is the expectation of the market. And one more thing that I realized, and again I remembered my teacher, was the FRBM Act, that is the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, because the Act also governs the finance minister to some extent. But the boss, aapko kahan tak lana hai fiscal deficit. So this is what, as a student of law, I have realized that there is always an act that governs almost everything in this world. And if you're within that framework, you can do whatever you want to. The moment you step out of it, there are ordinances, regulations, and etc. that will come in place and will trouble you. So similarly is your attendance as well. There are ordinances, regulations, and other things, even though it is virtually. So as we move on physically, there'll be a lot of these good learnings. So to understand budget, we should learn the FRBM Act as well. Great. So thank you, Deepak Bhai, for the bond market overview and the impact of budget on the bond market. I think we are at 4-1. I'll take a few questions from the students if the panel is okay. 1 or 2 questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So we have the first question, sir. Can we say many are expecting a populist budget as elections are going on, but the government gave a capex one, having a long-term effect?
I don't think people who are expecting a populist budget, I think we should not be expecting. See, there are 2 schools of thought to this. The government of India could have been very dramatic and done a very populist, taken a very populist approach by contributing a lot of money to welfare schemes, giving a few thousand rupees to people in and around the poverty line, etc. But as a taxpayer, none of us want to have our tax money that we pay to government India given away just like that to people in the lower strata of the society, because that money at the max, government would give few thousand rupees, but that few thousand rupees kisi ka bhala nahi hota. You can't even buy a second-hand scooter in a few thousand rupees, So that money just gets squandered away in some FMCG or liquor or this and that. It's a complete waste. What government has done is that putting that money, 7.5 lakh crore plus defense budget and all of that into creating national assets, creating infrastructure, airports, ports, highways, 25,000 kilometer highways are going to come up, etc. This in turn is going to generate employment. All that labor is going to come over there. So many capital intensive industries are going to supply their JCBs and earth movers and trucks, etc. So nobody expected a populist budget. I think this is the way it should have been done. It's done in a very right way. At least as a taxpayer, I'm happy this is happening.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I just want to leave a number down that subsidies have reduced from 2.1% of GDP to about 1.4% of GDP. And nobody really likes subsidies to be increasing. I think the government has done a remarkable job, given the fact that a large state like UP had the elections around the corner. So must give hats off to the government that they have done this.
Great. Thank you, Apurva and Deepak ji. The next question is, yeah, Mithali.
I wanted to add in here, as mentioned, that the government has tried to take into concern all the different avenues which would help it move ahead. There was climate change has been given importance, Make in India has been given importance. They're trying to generate so many more jobs, because as students, the students who are present here, you can understand the worry, because with the online education, which you are losing out on so much time, so much on in-depth training. So getting in terms of employment. So whatever are the different avenues which the government has allocated its budget to, has brought in different schemes, is more towards looking at a vision from 25 years from now. So they're not looking at an election year or just like a small term vision. The budget was more towards a long term vision which has been put forward.
Great. Thank you, Mithali. I think you said it right. That's a well-rounded budget. That's what the panelists, all panelists are on the same page, that the budget is well-balanced, well-rounded, and has everything for everybody in it, and not a very populist one just before the election where some freebies are given and which so overall that's what the conclusion is. There are a few more questions. The first one is, sir, currently many applications promote crypto in India. Is it legalized by Government of India? Should I invest in crypto? Shardul bhai, I think they love you.
Honestly speaking, as rightly mentioned by Naveen bhai, I think you have to be very, very careful as far as investing in a particular segment or a particular class of assets. Before investing in any particular class of assets, you will have to see the risk appetite which you are ready to take. And the risk appetite is something which you have to decide. And if you have money and if you feel you are ready to lose completely the entire sum of money, then yes, you can definitely invest in any of the speculative assets as we have discussed earlier. But as a student or as a person who has just started investment, I think you have to first think of diversifying them between equity and debt, and thereafter, some portion of equity can thereafter, after you have learned the same, can be put into asset classes which are more speculative in nature, and definitely crypto being one of the assets in the speculative, areas. It is only that portion of assets which you probably need to invest thereafter. But as far as again answering whether it is legalized in India, answer is no, it is yet not legalized. The Reserve Bank of India will come out with a detailed regulation. But as Apurva rightly mentioned, it will be very difficult for any government, maybe even India for that instance, to regulate cryptocurrency. But definitely we will hear something from the Reserve Bank of India soon.
Sure. Thank you, Shardulji.
I just want to say two words which every economic student will know: caveat emptor, when they look at cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
And no matter what, Naveenji, no matter what you say, the way these crypto questions are coming, all of these bachas are going to go and invest in crypto. You cannot keep them from investing in crypto. So if you have to put a number, what we can say is that don't put more than 2-3% of your investable wealth in crypto. करना है तो करो, लेकिन 2-3% ज़्यादा मत करो, and think it's going to become zero. It can become 3,000 also, but chance it can become zero, and don't put more than 2-3% in that.
I just want to share one data point which everyone will find interesting, that there are about 10 crores cryptocurrencies accounts operating in India right now. And in terms of demat accounts, it was 4 crores before COVID, which has now become about 7.5 crores accounts.
Correct.
So crypto has picked up in no time.
Yes, it's very easy to trade crypto. It's much easier than buying and selling mutual fund units and shares.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because the suppliers don't have any regulation and any compliances and filings as compared to what SEBI would do to any of the market infrastructure institutions or any of the intermediaries, where they have to comply with so many things on I think minute basis. That's what someone told me. That GST has become like stock market. वो हर minute में circular आता है. So I met a chartered accountant. He said, "Sir, I have now given up because it has become like stock market where I don't know when a new circular has come and what new avenue has opened up for which kind of sector." So there are 2 more questions. I think these are the last 2 questions, if Sheetal permits, because she's the one who's going to give vote of thanks.
Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Sheetal. So the next question is, sir, we have not talked about pharma, semiconductor and manufacturing. So if anyone would like to take that. Well, I think a little bit on pharma, I can definitely contribute that the gifts that the doctors receive may not be what they'll be receiving anymore, because that is not going to be considered as business income for all the pharmaceutical companies. So whatever, business expenses that they were undertaking, giving a lot of free trips abroad, etc., If you ask me personally, it is going to impact a lot of gifting business, which used to do a lot of work for these pharma companies. And that's what the sector is going through. Otherwise, the pharma sector is doing overall well because of the current scenario. And people are taking preventive medications. People are doing a lot of other things of curative medicines because of COVID and other things. So the sector itself is doing very well. So it did not require any more subsidies or push, in my opinion. So what they did was they said कि अभी आपको खर्चा हम कहाँ करने देंगे, उस पे हम रोक लगाते हैं. नहीं तो आप सब बांट दोगे. You would give it to all the doctors and give it in other forms to various people. So that is where they've got that regulation, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on the pharma sector, but if any of the panelists have an opinion, they may please share.
So I just want to add over here that again, this budget didn't focus too much on subsectors. So there was nothing much really per se for pharma, which was anticipated that some healthcare, some increase in healthcare expenses could come, some percent deduction on ATD or some COVID deduction could come in, which didn't happen. So there was nothing really per se for the pharma sector in this budget.
Great. So last question, I think, Chirag, why haven't we been focusing more on hawkers, mom and pop stores and manufacturing units that don't identify as MSMEs? Lack of financial inclusion and awareness and competition from China are perhaps the biggest problem as they are facing now.
How do you regulate a hawker, यार? Guy selling pani puri and sandwich, क्या regulation लगाओगे उस पे? उसके पास कोई computer नहीं है, system नहीं है, though everything is a cash basis. There is no way to know a person is a hawker. How do you regulate that guy who's not even there in the chart? He doesn't want to come in that chart on the table. So it's impossible to regulate those guys or give any benefit to those guys.
Okay. Thanks, Apurva.
I just want to mention over here that there's something called emergency credit line guarantee scheme, in which banks are allowed to give funding to MSMEs and to distressed sectors. And that limit was earlier 4,50,000 crores, which has been increased to 5 lakh crores, especially towards hospitality segment. And over here, the banks can lend money to these MSMEs organizations. It won't be towards hawkers, but it'll be 1 level, 2 levels above them, like shopkeepers, kirana stores. They can be classified under MSMEs, and they can get a line of credit from the bank and some moratorium in terms of repayment. And the banks are happy to lend them because the first 25, whatever money they lend under the scheme, the first 25% of the money, if it goes bad, that will be paid by the government. That's why banks are more than happy to lend under MSME scheme. So out of 4,50,000 crores, roughly about 3,20,000 crores have already been utilized so far. And the scheme has been extended till March 2023.
Deepak ji, correct me if I'm wrong, any small establishment which is registered as a shop establishment act or has an Udyog Aadhar may be covered under this scheme. That's what right. I was made to understand.
That's right, completely right.
Yeah. So last question, I think, Nivan Saad, what is the impact of budget on the education sector? Mithali, I think.
So yes, the budget has tried to get a more digitalization in terms of education sector. Like I already mentioned, there was a digital university which is going to be in various languages. There's been more focus they've included on even other non-education related subjects such as gaming, comics, animation. They're going to get in more courses on that because they've realized that now students do not want only maybe the main or the what was the earlier education standards. They want to branch out to other such fields. So they are trying to get in more courses on getting more recognition from universities, making a world-class education facility available to all students, whether you're staying in a metropolitan city, you're staying in a semi-urban area, or you're staying in a rural area. With the budget, there's been efforts to make education far-reaching and applicable and accessible to each and every person sitting right from their homes. In the past 2 years, we've been sitting on our screen and teaching. Students have been learning from the screens. It shows that we are trying to shift in more towards the digital form. And so sitting at your home, you can get access to so much more. There are so many different courses. You're not restricted only to one college. You can take so many other simultaneous correspondence courses, which would not have been possible for you. So I feel with this, there's been a good and a bad side. You've got more education available to you. It's been more reachable to you, and you can get access to more different varieties. So overall, I feel the budget has been really good on the education sector.
Thank you, Mithali. Also, I think 200 TV channels are going to be launched for
So there are already 12 channels, and now it's going to be increased to 200 channels to make it accessible for especially in the rural and semi-urban areas.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I think as a panel, we all conclude that the budget has been a growth-oriented budget and with a renewed enthusiasm. And I think as a panel, we all believe that the budget is not a very populist one, but a very rational one. And that's what most of the panelists have commonly agreed. On this note, we thank Indian Merchants Chambers for collaborating with HR College on behalf of Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, my principal. I thank you all, and of course, all my fellow panelists who have been wonderful and amazing, and all the students, of course, who are patiently there, 200 approximately odd, were patiently there attending and taking notes and participating. That's what keeps us going, my friends. If you interact, if you engage, we love to reciprocate. So that's how it works. Thank you so much. Over to Sheetal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Punjabi. Without much ado, it is my privilege to propose the word of thanks at the end of this interesting, intuitive, and highly knowledgeable session. As rightly said, knowledge will bring the opportunity to make a difference. Today's talk is very unique and insightful, and I hope all the students have drawn some take-home messages, because I certainly have. A lot of important and interesting topics have been touched on by the speakers, and interesting trivia by Dr. Punjabi about the halwa ceremony, which I didn't know. And it's commendable to know that HR College has a mental health cell. On behalf of IMC, I would like to thank Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, Principal of HR College of Commerce and Economics, and Dr. Naveen Punjabi, for providing this platform to interact with the students. I also wish to express our deep sense of gratitude to all our esteemed speakers for gracing the occasion and sharing the valuable experience. A lot of very interesting and important topics have been touched on. I must thank all the participants for being so interactive and drawing the best out of this session, because your presence is a source of encouragement to IMC. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Team IMC. Thank you once again, everybody, for contributing to the success of this event. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.